the next would be the application walkthrough. So we'll transition a little bit from the content side. It wasn't really content, but just the technical aspect of what we're doing here into the application walkthrough. We didn't pay much attention to it when we first created the instance because we have created the instance by our standard procedure, which is also described in the installation manual on the website. So that's another document I wanted to show you. So the installation manual, it is here. Right, so everything that we did, installing the application and everything else should be found in this document. So the instance that we created, all the properties of it, adding the data sources, selecting the companies in global dimensions, and so on. So the installation tab, and this is pretty much what we know that we can do from the application. But the application itself is, it's so much more. It's so much more. It's a user interface for what we then utilize with the scripts and everything. But we have a bunch of functionalities here that could come useful at least sometime in your work with BF Dynamics or with some specific project or so on. So I just wanted to guide you through it a little bit. Okay, so this will be kind of a logical step going from left to right. First, we have, the file when you find all the instances and all the other buttons, the new instance and save and so on. The one thing I wanted to point out here is the update license. So, of course, we get the license property when we first connect to the instance, but also if the customer decides in the course of using the BF Dynamics, they're missing a specific module and they didn't bought it. Let's say they will need a warehouse management, right? This wouldn't show up here because they don't have it in the license. So, and when we add that to the license, you would come here and click update license and the module will show up. Also, it is useful for when the customer when the customer rents the license for 1 year, of course, and then when the expiration date is up, you could go here and update the license, and you'll see that expiration date and of course enhancement date, which we haven't talked about, but no worries. So about the instance, if we go to File, About Instance, you'll see some basic property. So basically the license that we have used, so when it was created and so on. So now this will be more specific with the customer because this is our BF Dynamics license and it's, we have the general things going on here. But also you will have the instance information, right? So you'll have it all on one page where what the server name is, where we own the data warehouse, and what is the log path, and where the analysis database is, and so on. Also the collation that we chose, and a couple of things. Again, we have the cubes here, so this is like the modules, but that's pretty much it. If you don't know which license the customer is using, if you would need to create a new instance, you would go into existing instance, click About, and you will have the license here. Okay, good. So that's that. Now, remember when we created the instance, we went through a couple of steps. So first, of course, if I come back to the installation manual, right, we decided on what the name of the instance is going to be, where we need to deploy it, and so on. So this is absolutely necessary, and we need to define that before we go forward. So that is still setting up the instance BF Dynamics perspective. But when this is done, we'll go into adding the data source, which is already something that is customer specific. So let's say they have one database, maybe they have two, and you set it up initially. Now, I just wanted to say that everything that you have set up initially can be modified or changed later on as well. Now, going back to the application, I can show you this. So we went through adding the data source. So I can add or remove an existing data source. You only have one, so you won't be able to remove it. Well, you can, but it's better to do a new instance. For me, I have two databases here. I can remove one if necessary or add an additional one from the menu here. And this will be the same procedure as we did before. So I would connect to the server where the database is and select a different database, of course. Select the version. Now I selected Navision 2018 here, which is marked with number 11. And I would click OK. And that would add a new data source to the project. Now, if you don't have a database available with you, it's fine just keeping one. For I think Serap, you only have one database there, right? Everybody else can actually do this as well. Okay. Yeah, and always with live presentations, something goes wrong. So yeah, that's fine. Physical connection not usable. Okay, let's try again. Physical connection not usable. That's a strange error to get because I'm on the local server. Let's try this again. Test the connection. So this is okay. Let's try to edit again. Okay, if this doesn't work for some reason, we'll just continue without it. But you get the point. So you can add a data source or remove it. You also have an option to edit that data source. We'll check that option as well. Let's just wait for to have some results here. It always takes longer when you're live. That's a rule. Okay, and this one was successful. So a strange error, a connection error I got before. It's not a problem, but now you see I have three databases. Now, as I have added the database, I only have it in the project, but I haven't selected the companies yet, like we did in the creating to the instance. So we'll just move to the right and see the companies. So now I have three databases here. So the initial two and also one additional that I have just added. Okay. And again, I can I must select the company. So it's not enough just to add the data source, but you have to select the company as well to get it into the project. And again, I'll select the two dimensions that I have selected previously, department and project, and select accordingly. Okay. I'll select the same additional currency as I have for other two companies, which is USD. Good, and I will assign a company short name, and this will be Navision 2018. Okay, because this is the source. This is BC16, this is BC17, and this is Navision 2018, or if I put it in their internal numbers, this is Navision 11. Doesn't matter. Okay, I will save the global dimensions to see if everything is okay. And again, the modules that we talked about, if there's no change, you can leave this untouched, and just so if you have a new module to be added to the project, you can select it from here. Now this is basically what we did in the initial setup. So if I go here again, so we have added the data source, we have selected the companies, global dimensions, and then the modules, and then we went into the installation page. Now, let me go back. Okay. So that's that. And now let's talk about deploy a little bit. So that's it. That is basically the next step. So even if I go to install, disregarding all of this, you will see deploy instance and process instance. So the next step, when you define things, when you change something structurally speaking, adding a data source, changing global dimensions, or adding a company or removing a company, anything that is set up regarded, you will have to do a deploy all. Deploy all means that you will get those new new structures to the database. So you will deploy everything. You will deploy all the changes to the server. Now, again, you could do this partially. You will rarely do this, but you have an option to do so. But otherwise, you can just do deploy all. Now, going back to that installation page, you can see deploy manual scripts only. Those are the manual scripts. You don't need to know about this. You will always go to the install and run this page. Just wanted to show you that we have that functionality in here. So deploy manual scripts is this step, number 4. Okay. And we have a bunch of things here. Besides the usual end-to-end installation, but also some manual options as well. One of those manual options is I'm just thinking if I should go into this one a little bit later. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, we have 2 other options here. One is deploy and process button. This is just an additional button that helps us only press the button once, and then you will deploy and process the data. So deploy and process. It's the same thing as you would do this, okay? But you don't need to go to the installation page and click run. You can just get it from here. So this will do deploy and process all. So deploy all. And moving to the next step, it will do only also process all. Okay, so that's deploy and process all. Now again, deploy is dealing with structures. The processing part is dealing with the actual data. So deploying stage, okay, remember 3 parts to our project. Stage will get, processing stage will get the information from BC or Navision sources to our staging tables. Data warehouse will be the filling the data with the rules we have in the scripts to the data warehouse, so dimension and fact tables, and then we'll transfer everything to analysis database. So again, like Jan mentioned before, the ETO process, so we'll extract and transfer and load everything to the database. Good. Another important thing is the type of update that we are doing. We haven't talked much about this, but we have 2 options here. One is full and one is incremental. So what does that mean? A full process is that you will upload all the data available in Navision. So all the data that we have selected to bring into the project. And this will be true every time the full process is triggered. So all the data from start to finish. Now, on the other hand, incremental update will only bring the data in the project that were not there before. So how do we achieve that? So how do we know that the data was not there before? This is achieved with a column that we add on each table, like staging table. Let's have a look at again, customer, why not? Sorry, let's look at the transactional table, and this time it will be value entry. I'll just select top 1000 row. And this is timestamp. So you will see a number here. It won't tell you much, okay? It won't tell you much at all. This is stage timestamp. Sorry, I was looking for this one. So this is a number here that will tell us if the information was already loaded to the project or not. Okay, so we'll take a look at that number, and you also see the timestamp if we go on the to go one step back on the source table. So on the source database. Sorry, let me check this one, and then we'll see. Then we'll look for the value entry. I have some filters here. Filter settings. Value entry. Click OK. Okay, I have some value entry table, and I'll just select this table, and you will see a timestamp field here as well. So this is a string that will tell you. Now you might see a different format. Don't be bothered by that. We reconfigure it a little bit, but the logic is still the same. If the timestamp is higher, so if it's not there in the project, we will load from this table to our staging table. And then again, when we have all the data, all the one that already existed, and all the ones that were incrementally loaded to the stage, we'll move to the. Sorry, let me just close down this application. Okay, we'll move to the processing of data warehouse, where again, only the data, the transactional data that is not yet there, will be loaded. And then analysis database will be a full upload. Still, this is, we have some technical limitations here. This will be full in any case, but it's so quick that it doesn't really bother. Now, why is this useful? Again, for us with demo databases, this will make absolutely no difference, probably just a couple of seconds. But then for the big customers, I've give you an example. We have a customer which has 4.5 terabytes of data. Their full load, I think, takes about 30 hours. The incremental load then takes about 6 hours. So that's a huge difference. With the full update, they would need to check that they would have to look at, data that is 2 days old. With this one, it would be just a couple of hours old. Okay, so update, incremental or not. Good. Moving to the left a little bit. Okay, just tell me if you understand this or not, if everything is okay. If something is not clear, just stop me right away, okay? I hope everything was clear until now.
Yep.
Good. So what do we actually do? What do we actually do when we say process? Yeah, of course we get the data, but there are some procedures that actually tells the SQL server how to get that data, right? Stored procedures. And those are actually the load scripts that are within the, sorry, just close this down. So those are actually the load procedures that we can see in each particular fact or dimension. So we'll look again at dimension, customer, we had looked at it many times. So deploy is actually is sending those scripts to the server, and then the load procedure will tell our application how to load the data and which data to load. Okay, so this is the load procedure. Yeah, and those get uploaded to the script, and then it gets executed. So this is the procedure, but to execute the procedure, we just say dim load customer. So this is the stored procedure, and we execute it, and that stored procedure will bring the data to our to that table, to the customer table in this case. Now, stored procedures are stored within the files, right? But like in every data warehouse, they're also stored on the database itself. So PC, so we'll not look at the tables, we'll look at programmabilities, stored procedures. And again, this is the same thing that you will see in the in here, right? We have the create procedure, you have the load procedure. So again, we'll take a look at the create table customer. There we go, the create table customer. So this is the create table, and then we move on to, of course, in between we have the view, which is stored in different sections of SQL Server. So the views, so customer view. But then again, the stored procedure, the load store procedure is stored here, just not under create, but we'll scroll down to dimension load. Right, and we see load company. Okay, this is the same exact procedure. Now, when we're processing data, we're in fact executing those stored procedures. Okay, and how does the application knows that it has to execute those exact stored procedure? So this is where the process flow comes in. The process flow, yeah, and this is also the time that we'll talk about the integration services that we checked in the first meeting when we created the instance. Okay, so there's different kinds of, you can use different technology to load the data, and in this case we are using integration services to load the data. And again, like I said, we tell the application what to load through a process flow. Now, what is process flow? And you will see here object group and process steps and so on. Now let's talk about integration services a bit. So we're processing data using the integration services. I will not get too deep into this. This is, really technical, but if you remember, I've told you that integration services, we always check integration services. We can leave it unchecked, but that will have some consequences on the processing time. Let me explain. So when we have let me first tell you this. Each one of this object group is a integration service package. I'll show you. SSIS, I think it's under custom BF for Dynamics. Okay, this is a integration service package. So I told you that we are executing the stored procedures, okay? But what we actually do is package those stored procedures in the integration service package. Okay, just bear with me for a moment. I'll tell you what I mean. Now, of course, we have to execute the stored procedures and the packages in a specific order. So first will be the company and date. Like I told you, it's the most important dimensions here. And why is that? So we have to know which companies are in the database and which date is in the database, so we can assign data to that specific company. Now, again, if we look at the maybe this one, right, you will see the company ID and data source ID, right? The company ID is important. So we need to know which company is there. Good. So that is one stored procedure that is executing those two stored procedures. Okay. And this is another integration packages which handles another, 27 stored procedures. And we will go on like this in all the packages. Now, these packages are here in a specific order, like I said. So this cannot be changed because we need it to execute in the specific order. Like I said, dim date will come first, and then we will load dimensions first. Why? Because we need dimensions to be loaded so we can use it on facts later on. So this is a general idea behind it. So all you need to know here is we execute it in a specific order. Okay, now the benefits of using the SSIS packages. Okay, if we would not use the SSIS package, each of this procedure would start running, so it will be executing on the server, and only when that is done, we'll move on to the next store procedure. So they would be executed one by one, and the next one will have to wait for the previous one to finish. Now with SSIS packages, we can utilize all the available CPU. Okay, I'll just go here under CPU. So we can utilize all the logical processors at the same time. So what we do with SSIS packages is we execute eight store procedures at the same time, because I have 8 logical processors. For you, it might be less. So for the customer, it might be only 4. That's fine, but that is still 4 times faster than it would be if you would execute store procedures one by one. Okay, tell me if you follow until now.
I think I can understand, but here and there, I think I lost. But once you go ahead, I think I'll catch up.
Yeah. So okay, maybe I'll explain it again. No problem. Alex, you had a question?
It's basically running parallel, right?
Absolutely correct. So I just want to use the simple words, right? So yeah, it's running parallelly. Yeah, Yaka, go ahead. Sorry.
Are SSIS packages only used for data warehouse or stage also?
Also for stage, but in BI4 Dynamics, this is the only part of the application that is somehow hidden. It's an important part of our application, and we don't want everybody to see the logic behind stage that we have there, okay? So that is still, and also this SSIS packages here. So you can see stage, right? Stage delete, stage drop index, load, and create indexes. So stage is using the SSIS packages as well. But these are not available to the public as opposed to the store procedures. Okay, so you cannot open, this is encrypted, so you cannot open this with anything basically. Here at BI4 Dynamics, we have a now decryption application, but if you would try to decrypt this, or you will get nothing. So this is delete stage. You won't see the logic behind it. Okay. As opposed on the data warehouse, now we still package this into encrypted packages, but you can see those store procedures within the scripts. Good. Any other questions? Okay. No, that's good. So again, if I repeat, now we do have some other internal logic that is going on here, but it's not, it's not that important at this stage. Important thing is that, like Alex mentioned, that this is running in parallel, as opposed to not using SSIS, where you have to wait for one store procedure to finish, and then the other one could start. Now, of course, like I said, there is a logic to it, even beyond just the SSIS package. So in in the same SSIS package, we still have some rules, and this is where the object subgroups comes in place. So we would first do the, okay. Yeah, let's take a look at the one of the example. Okay, simple one, sales orders that we have before. So let's say that we would throw all of the store procedures on the server at the same time. So what could happen here? Maybe the load procedure would be executed because we don't really have control if we just send everything on the server, right? Then it will just execute everything in a, not really controlled order. Now, what would happen if we would first load sales orders and then we would truncate the same table, right? This means we would have no data as a consequence. So that's why we have object subgroup that will tell us, okay, within the same object subgroup, you will always, the SQL server will always execute truncate first, and then it will load the data. The same thing for other subgroups. So truncate first and then load. Okay, well, this is another layer that we have here. But using SSIS, you can truncate both of those at the same time, actually 8 of them, right? And then move to the load part, right? But still in between, in a specific object subgroup. Like I said, really, it's not really complex, so I will not go into further details. You just need to know that we're using SSIS technology here, and it makes the processing a lot faster by utilizing all the logical processors on the server. Now, let's look at this in practice. So I will do what I will do here is deploy and process, because I have added some companies and everything, right? Or actually, let's avoid waiting. I will just process data warehouse. Now, you will go, I'm not sure if we had, let me just check something. Not this one, but project implementation file. It's empty for me. Okay, I will redistribute a file here. Sorry, let me just find it first. OneDrive. It's active. Okay, I'll send you a link in the chat. So everybody will download the store procedure. So there's a link there. So we'll take a minute. So everybody download that store procedure and just put it somewhere on the server. And when I say server, just put it somewhere where you have on that computer that you have your data warehouse. Okay, for most of us, this will be a local computer. If some of you is using the server, then it's going to be a server. And just let me know when you're done.
Okay, I'm done.
Hey, Sarab first place, Luca second. In the Olympic spirit, who will be the bronze medalist. It's quite a race.
Do we need to put it into some specific folder or not?
No, just put it somewhere. Actually, you can you can put it into the folder 7 of the project implementation files. So it will come in useful on every project. Okay, everybody has it. Okay. Okay, I'll also put it here. Good, so now everybody's in the same place. Okay, let's open this stored procedure on the server where your data warehouse is. For me, it is Mate PC. So I would go file, or I can just click the open file icon here. Go to file, open a new file. Okay, and I'll select it where I saved it. In project implementation folder, who is active. Okay, everybody done?
Yeah.
Rakesh, Surab?
Yeah, we're done.
Good. So when you have,
Just
okay,
doing it.
okay. So when you have it here, you will just execute this script. So you will press F5 or you will press execute. And you should say comments completed successfully.
Done.
Done? Good. Okay, now you can close this. You can put it away if that is completed successfully. So what we've done is just installed, let's say, a stored procedure. Now you will find this stored procedure in the system databases, master, programmability, stored procedures, and you'll see it here. I'll wait for a second and repeat. So you will go to databases, system databases, master, programmability, then store procedures.
System databases.
Okay, everybody found it? Rakesh, you're okay?
Yep.
Okay, found it. Okay, next thing, right click on it and execute stored procedure. This will bring a window. You will just click OK here on the next window.
Okay.
Good. So who is active procedure is a procedure that we use and will tell us what is happening on the SQL server. And we'll use that so to show you how my 8 processors are utilized in this case. Okay. Yeah, you can delete these 2 selects. We don't need these 2. Okay, but if you have it there, no problem. Okay, and when you execute your store procedure, probably nothing is going on in your server at this point, right? Okay, so you can watch this time, and if you only have one screen, you know, I'll show you what I'll do. So I will press process all actually. Okay, and then BF Dynamics will start processing stage at first. I will then return to the SQL Server Management Studio and execute that store procedure again. So I've pressed F5, but I can also execute. And here you can already see, right, that I'm using the 8 logical processors to execute some store procedure. Now, this is stage. Okay, so it's really quick. It's going really quick. So that's why I couldn't show you more. But you know, it's happening. Let's see. Yeah, this is already updating the facts. Okay. So it's updating and inserting and so on. Nothing going on here because I was so, you know, it was so quick because I had an incremental update. So basically we just, I was just flying through the process. So we will have probably more time on your end. If not, we can switch to full process and just do the same thing again. So then we'll have a little bit more time. But you get what we're doing here, right? So we're executing integration services to execute stored procedures and 8 at the same time because I have 8 logical processors. Good. So that will make processing, as you've seen, a lot faster. So combination between the SSIS packages and then incremental update is really powerful, right? So you're not doing the full update, you're only bringing in the new data, and then also with that you're processing store procedures in parallel. Okay, and that is the idea behind SSIS and the process flow. Now this can be edited in special cases. It's mostly, you know, 90+% is not. It's just running the default process flow. But in case customer has some customizations, outside sources, we have the ability to change this process flow to add more store procedures, right? I'm pretty sure that those of you who have done some, you know, the exercise from the previous meeting, that you created some custom dimension or some custom fact, you will see that store procedure inside. So I think for me it was one of the dimensions. I'm not sure which one. But yeah, you can see that here. Okay, and that's it. Let's not go too far into this. I think that was enough. Okay, process flow. So when we're at this stage already, now everything that we did from the application, right? We created the instance and then we deployed and processed and did everything here. Now, how will the customer get its data each day? So here we utilize another part of the SQL Server, which is called SQL Agent Job. Okay, we will create an agent job. You have this section here on the Process tab, and I'll just click Create, and you should see agent job by the name that you have selected here is successfully created. Okay, let me know if you have done so. All good? Everybody okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Can we remove an agent job?
Well, we cannot remove an agent job from the application, but you can remove the agent job from the SQL Server then if you made some mistake or whatever. So let me show you where the agent job is. Now, if you again go to the SQL Server where you have deployed your project, you will see a separate SQL Server agent section. Now I have a red icon here, which means that the SQL Server is not running. So if you have the same, you will press right click and start. Okay, this will bring up a message. Are you sure you want to start the SQL agent service on your computer? You will click yes. And I got a server logon failure. Okay, let's see what happened. I will go to services. Just showing you this because you might have the same, you might not. I will go to SQL Server Agent for this server. Okay. And probably this is running under my user here. Probably I'll have to, I changed the password in the meantime, so I'll just have to input the password again. Okay, I'll click apply. I hope for you guys the agent job is working. If not, let me know. Okay, and I will again go here and click start. The same message. Are you sure? Yes. I will try to start it, and I think it was successful. And then I have a green icon in the server agent. Yeah, we're all on the same page. Good. Now, if you expand that and expand the jobs as well, okay, you should see the one that we have created right now. Okay, this is the agent job that will automatically process BI4 Dynamics instance each day or each hour, whatever you select. When you create it by default, it will start once a day, but we can check that. So let's go to properties. Okay, right click on the agent job properties, and we'll go to schedules. Okay, when we are at schedules, we'll just click on the one schedule list that we have available at the moment, and we will already see that the agent job occurs every day at midnight starting on today because we just created it, right? So when we click edit here, we can change the frequency in which the agent job is executed to daily, weekly, monthly, okay? Or even that on the daily frequency, it occurs once at midnight. So this is the one that we have selected, or at, I don't know, 3 p.m. or whatever it is. Or we can even select to occur more than once. So it will start at 3 o'clock, or in this case, still at midnight. And if we check that, it will occur every hour or every 3 hours, starting at midnight, ending at midnight next day, or the same day. And it will start again at midnight the next day. Okay. And the description will tell you what you actually did. So occurs every day, every 3 hours between midnight and the next day. So schedule will start on, well, today, right? So we all have that. So that's how you change the frequency. Now, this heavily depends on the customer. Most of them will look at the data, which is 1 day old. What do I mean by that? So if the agent job is processing at midnight, it will get all the information that it was posted in the ERP system until midnight. And then in the morning, when they will check the data, they will check yesterday's data. That is true again for 90+% of the customers. So we just want to know the analysis until today. Now the processing time comes into place here. If the processing time is 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, and if they are satisfied with checking the data 1 day old data, so just analysis until today, that is fine. You leave it as it is. Now, if the customer has really small databases like we have right now, when it takes the incremental about a minute or so, then we can schedule the job to start every 1 hour or every 15 minutes. And in this case, the customer will have 15 minutes old data, maximum 15 minutes old data. Okay, this is rarely used. We have some customers that starts the jobs every 1 hour, okay, because this makes sense. Otherwise, majority of cases it's once per day. Now, this is the agent job, okay? If I show you what the agent job does, actually, so we'll just go into steps. So away from schedules and to steps. And again, we'll click edit. Okay, and we'll expand on that window. And it's just a, a comment execution line that probably most of you would recognize, but if not, I'll tell you what it does. So the first part of the code is open the application, right? No different that you would do manually. Anybody has a question, Saurabh? No? Okay, I just heard the noise in the background, no problem. So this will open the application, and additionally it will open the instance. So no different as you would go here and open the application and click File and open the instance, right? This is still the same. And then the last part of it is BI for Dynamics. Now, what does BI for Dynamics stands for? Well, we just covered this, and this is the actual name of the process flow. So it will execute the process flow that we defined here. Okay, so this is BI for Dynamics. Now here in the application, you can create new process flow if necessary, but this is rarely used. I'm just saying that we have that ability, but that's about it, right? We won't go any further into this. Usually, again, this is true for a lot of customers. Only a few examples that I know are using a different process flow here. So it will execute BI for Dynamics process flow. And again, if I go here, right, BI for Dynamics. Good. And this is how the processing is done on daily basis for the customers using the stored procedures. Okay. Good. So that's that. Yeah. Also in the process flow, like I said, we have ability to add new object groups and new SSIS packages just in case a customer has a data outside its ERP system, so outside the database that we have selected here. So if they're using external data, we can import it inside using the SSIS packages. Now, that's as far as we'll go at this point. So that's the process.
May I ask what happens to SQL agent when somebody deletes the BI for Dynamics? It just stays in the database and keeps running, right?
Well, if it's, it stays there, but it's not running. Or to be more exact, it is running, but it is finished as it is categorized as unsuccessful finish, right? It failed because it couldn't execute what it's supposed to be doing.
Do you maybe know why we've decided to not delete the database that's behind the instance when the instance is deleted?
Oh, the database is deleted.
Not in my experience.
Well, the database is deleted. I can assure you that. When the instance is deleted, the database also gets deleted. The agent job, however, is not at this point, but the database is deleted.
Okay.
You can show me what you mean later on, but the database is deleted. Okay, if you want a proof of that, yeah, let me just yeah, I won't go deleting this instance now because we're using it, but at the end we'll delete it.
Sorry, it could be because I'm stupid and I was deleting the instance folders through Explorer.
Yeah.
Not through the application.
Yeah, if you delete anything manually, of course, the application is not handling it. So if you delete this folder, it will effectively delete the instance. But if you go to File and click Delete, this will delete the databases as well. Okay, that's that. Good. So the customize step, we already went through this. So getting the metadata, reload the sources, and manage dimensions, manage model. But there is one significant feature that comes in really useful, and this is documentation. So if you click on your project on documentation, it will open a window, and you can select some properties here. It doesn't matter. Top data warehouse tables by data size. So this will give you some additional information. You can select where to put it. For me, I will put it in documents. Okay. In documents, and I will click generate. Now we'll wait a minute for the documentation to generate. So Surab and Rakesh, this will really come useful to you guys. And I'll show you what we do with the documentation. Yeah, this will take a minute. So of course, you know, every customer has some specifics. They need to add some customization to the project and so on, right? And what is the hardest thing for a developer to do? It's write documentation, right? So what we did here is took this to another level, and we are generating the documentation automatically. Now, I was already talking about the wizard files that we have here, you know, and as you know, in BF Dynamics, we know that everything, how everything is connected to the project. We know which dimensions are used on each fact, and we know you know what the measures are and everything. So we know this from, you know, when we save the work that we have done in the wizard section. Now, when we save that, we have this information in XML files, right? If I open a XML file here, you will get this information. Okay, some information. Then we take those files and do some magic. Luca can describe in details what we do here because he was the author of this. So we create a project documentation. So in this documentation, we see exactly what is going on in the project. Now you have like I said, so we're using those files, those wizard files where we have the project defined to build documentation, to create it from scratch. Now, since this is computer generated, you know, it's not the best visually speaking, but you have all the important information. Now, if you browse to content and then cubes, okay, we'll just look at one of the cube. So you'll see what is happening here. So it's basically, let me just do this so you'll see a little bit better. Now, this is a summarization on what we have in the project. Now, overview of measures and dimensions, it's a simple count. It will tell you how much measures we have. So the base measures that we talked about, the custom data warehouse measures, and the DEX measures, okay? Now, it will also tell you one specific thing that is really useful. So it will tell you on which fact or which measure group are we using which dimensions. So for instance, if you would use a dimension that is not used on the fact, you would get the same result as Alex did when he was trying to add the item dimension, right? When he had all the same numbers across the across the board, right? So, but if you're using a dimension that is connected to the fact, you'll see nice numbers. Now, apart from dimension that we use on each specific measure group, we also have listed the measures, and then we'll just go into a little bit more details. And what I mean by that is that you'll see exactly where each dimension and each fact is coming from and what is the definition, okay? So let's say the GL account comes from a table, right? And the source for it is GL account. Okay, this is just an example. You know, general posting type is an option field, and it comes from field GL entry, general posting type. Now this is simple, but when we go to the measures, it will actually tell you how are they defined and what is the SQL expression and calculation used behind them. So, you know, GL balance is calculated like this. So this is the DAX expression. And to put it more simply, so GL net change additional currency is the GL entry amount times currency factor ACY. So this is pretty much in line with what we saw already. And then we just, that's, in a nutshell, that's it, right? Then you can go to content and search the cubes that you want to check. So this is this is useful when the customer asks, so what does these measures mean? So what's the formula behind that? So you can just say, okay, you can generate your own documentation. If you have added some new measures or new dimensions, you can, of course, generate the documentation and it will be included in here. And then just browse to the appropriate measure group and see what is happening there. Right, so the sales order that we have created, so we have a measure that is coming from sales like quantity, and this is the description of it. Okay, do you have any questions regarding this? Documentation?
No, not yet. This looks good.
Yeah, it's really useful. So this is, you know, this is the one thing that is usually missing on any application or any developer, you know, is writing the documentation for it. And we have made this as easy as possible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's that for today's session. Do you guys have any comments or questions regarding everything we did today?
No, I think it's good.
It's good. Anybody else? Yeah, if not, well, thank you for attending today. We have one more day to go and we'll check the rest of the features within the application. And that will then conclude the technical side of the training.